Before we start today, I have to tell you about State Farm agent Bryant. A lot of our listeners have gone to him for all their insurance needs, and he's been very helpful in getting them the coverage they deserve. There's no games with Bryant. He's just here to help and make sure you feel safe. So if you have insurance needs and you haven't called him yet, what are you waiting for? Dial up the number, 630-796-2662. That's 630-796-2662. Or find him online at ryanismyagent.com. That's ryanismyagent.com. And make sure to mention Sports Talk Chicago. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Well, apparently, I'm a blanking moron. Apparently, I'm a blanking hater. I'm a troll for saying the Cubs weren't a contender and aren't a contender. Some of the comments I'm seeing on YouTube, on Facebook, across social media, it's really fun basking in the delusion of some fans. Entering this series against Milwaukee, the Cubs were 3 games back. They'd already lost the division lead, but everybody, for some reason, thought there might be hope. And I said, nope, no rotation, no hitting. It's fruitless to continue to support this team year in and year out. I've said it since 2019. This team is over. No one wanted to listen. And they turn around, they lose 2 games. 5 games back. And in the 3rd game, they were up 7-0. And naturally, you have everybody talking, oh, the offense is back, great pitching, good team again. It's a vibe. And they give up the 7-run lead, and they lose the game 15-7. You couldn't write a better script if you tried. You couldn't. Now do you see? Is it apparent now, or should we continue with this charade? The Cubs are not good. Can't believe we're still sitting here trying to justify their season. Now they're 3 games over 500. The month of June is over. Remember, we said June would be a test month. To me, it's a colossal failure. A colossal failure. You want to call yourself a contender? Then beat the Brewers. If it's such a weak division, then why didn't you beat them? Exactly. You're not a contender. You're a pretender. You're a seller at the deadline. You should have been rebuilding from the beginning of the season. But no, everyone wanted to see what this team could do. Well, it's apparent that they can't do anything. Why is Jake Arrieta still on this team? Here's the best part, too. I remember when he was signed. I have proof right in front of me. Everyone loved it. Quote, Arrieta, who spent the last 3 mostly unsuccessful years with the Phillies, is back where he made the most hay, and I'm stoked. He isn't going to be the guy that he was at his peak, but that doesn't mean he can't be a useful starting pitcher. No, obviously, you were wrong. So funny how everybody runs around the Cubs and makes the most of these pointless and frivolous moves. I said from the very beginning, Jake Arrieta wouldn't work. 35 years old. Does anybody know what he did in Philadelphia? No, because you don't pay attention. He was not good. 4+ ERA, 5+ ERA. They paid him money to do that. But no, he'll rekindle himself. He's back in his roots. Chicago. He'll be fine. No. He's washed up. He's old. Done. Who else do you have in the rotation? Nothing. You have a whole bunch of nothing in that rotation. You really can't sell me on any of these pitchers, with the exception of Hendricks. Davies, no. Arrieta, no. Alzolay, no. There's another experiment. Real Cubs fans will remember Angel Guzman. Remember him, 2005 through 2008? Every year he'd be on the team. Every year there was hype, and every year he got hurt, couldn't perform, 6 ERA, gone from the team. That's Adbert Alzolay. Same guy. Angel Guzman, Adbert Alzolay. Real Cubs fans, not bandwagons, know what I'm talking about. So you won't sell me on him. I don't care how many strikeouts he racks up. When your ERA is nearly 5, it really cancels it out. If these past games don't prove to you that it's time to sell, time to move on from this team, then nothing will. And you're willing to go down with the ship for a team that isn't good. And if that's your choice and you want to do that, so be it. I'm not. Look, you have time now. You have a month before the deadline. Trade everyone. Do it now. Because Bryant is regressing. Could have traded Bryant back in April or May, gotten a haul back. Remember the articles? Oh, what if he went to the White Sox? What happened to that? It's over now? Right, of course it is, because he's regressed. Anthony Rizzo still playing well. I mean, Javier Baez is average. You could get something back for these guys. It's time to make the moves. And no, this isn't a controversial opinion. If you watch Cubs baseball, if you've seen how they've played over these past 7 or 8 days, then you obviously know that they can't beat a contender. If they can't beat a contender, they are not a contender, and it's over. That's it. I'm sick of people trying to defend this team when they've done nothing to earn it. Oh, I'm sorry, they won a World Series in 2016, so that earns them credibility for 2021. It's over. No, this isn't me being a hater or a troll. I'm pointing out the facts. Did you see how they played against Los Angeles and now Milwaukee? If you can't beat Milwaukee in a weak division, then you're not a contender. Just 2 weeks ago, everybody said it's okay, the Cubs will win a weak division, they'll make a run in the playoffs. Well, they can't beat Milwaukee, and if the division is so weak, why aren't they leading it? It's a weak division. Why aren't they in first place? Exactly. Every argument that you try to make for this Cubs team is just easily discredited. It's not even funny. Don't even waste your time. Don't do it with me. Now a 16% chance to make the postseason, 1% to win the World Series. That's more like it. That's who this Cubs team is. Before the season, I said 83 and 79. Well, they're 42 and 39. Right on track. It is time to rebuild. You don't want to hear it, I know, but it's time. And if these past couple of games didn't tell you that, then nothing will. Even if the Cubs recover, which I know they will because the schedule is going to get easier, we saw what we saw. We've seen this. So they can't beat a real contender. So even if by somehow they make the playoffs, they aren't going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They have no rotation. None. Hitting on and off, and it wasn't there this weekend or against the Dodgers. Even the bullpen, the great bullpen, showed signs of regression. I mean, brothers, his ERA shot up to 3.45. Tepera's is up, and now he's on the IL. I mean, Nance was demoted. It was a great story. It was a great run. May was nice, and everybody got to bask in the glow of this team. But their true colors have come out today. We now know who they are. If you disagree, if you still think May is the reality of this Cubs team, you're dead wrong. May was an easy schedule. I'm sure they beat up on some tough opponents, but this time around they couldn't. And it's later in the year. Last time I checked, if you regress as a team, if you lose to the same teams you beat in May, not a good sign. It's just so apparent to me. It's been apparent for a while. I hope it's apparent to you today. Look at this stat for June. I really want you to pay attention to this. Jesse Rogers from ESPN. Quote, the Cubs went 12-16 in June, losing their final 6 games to fall 6 games behind Milwaukee. Their team batting average was 187.5, the worst in any month, in any season, since 1900. Again, their team batting average was 187.5 in the entire month. The prove it month. The month where they should have won games, where they faced contenders. And were supposed to run away with this weak division. Didn't do it. They couldn't hit. If you can't hit contending pitching, then hey, guess what? I got a secret for you. Come close. You're not a contender. You're not a contender. When you're giving up too many runs, not a contender. When you have one credible starting pitcher, you're not a contender. I said this 2 days ago, before the Brewers series. They would need 4 to 6 players to be good. Want to be a real contender? Get 4 to 6 new players. Get a couple of bats, a couple of starters, and we'll talk. That wasn't worth it. That itself was a waste of time. Now look. Now look where they are. No one wants to admit it. I know it's tough. People have separation anxiety with this team, and I get it. I know. Great team, great core, 2016 World Series. I mean, there are a lot of things to root for. You don't want this to end. Big market team. Why rebuild again? I understand. But you can't deny what you saw over the past 7 or 8 days. You can't. You follow me on Twitter at Jon Z Sports. You should, by the way. I said, quote, yesterday, sweet vindication. For those who actively listen to my program, I've warned you about this since 2019. Stop selling me this Cubs team. They're just not good. Plain and simple. They're not. And I have said this since 2019. Because back then, even with different players around, it was apparent. It was glaringly apparent. Last year, in the pandemic season, when they won the division, it was still apparent. You do realize they lost in the playoffs to the Marlins. And yet we have people coming back for this year saying they're going to win the division. What? You have to get out of this position. Stop believing in this team. Ian Happ's hitting a $183. Jason Hayward a $194. There's no more small sample size argument. No, it's been 70 games. That's what these guys are hitting. That's what they're putting up. Eric Sogan, 70 games and 244. 66 OPS plus. That's your starting second baseman, Cubs fans, until Warner returns. And yet, There are some, few, but still some who say they're in this. They're a contender. It's a weak division. If it's so weak, why aren't they in first place? Just common sense questions that people refuse to ask and refuse to answer. If you ask them, that's a big problem. I'm a blanking moron, aren't I? For pointing all this out. I'm a blanking hater and a blanking troll. Okay. Says the person who believed that this team, somehow, is still good. You guys really are too much for me sometimes. You make me laugh. Really comical. You still have time. Understand what's going on. Not much time, but some. The August 1st trade deadline is a month away. Here's your chance to speak out and say, you know what, Jed, the Ricketts family, let's sell. I've seen enough. Let's sell them off. You could get something for Bryant, something for Baez. Kimbrel's having a great year. Last year of the contract, get rid of Kimbrel. Pay him his prorated salary and he'll be fine. I mean, these are ways in which you could get back a lot. Kimbrel especially. I mean, come on, what contender would need a closer right now? Lots of them. And Kimbrel's having a great year. These are great opportunities to build up your team for the future, but it's your choice to do it. You have to come to the realization, Chad Hoyer, the Ricketts family, that it's time to sell. The fans have to come to that realization too, because it'll make it easier. You have time. You can still do it. And I would hope it's easier and more apparent after these past couple of weeks, but that's up to you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but I'm presenting the facts as they may be. Look, the fact is, the Cubs are 6 games out of the division, and it's July 1st. The fact is, June was supposed to be a big test month where they faced all these contenders, good teams above 500, and they failed. They went 12-16. The fact is, they hit a $187 as a team against these good teams. The fact is, they got one starting pitcher. 3 guys in their lineup with OPS pluses under 100. These are facts. These are numbers. You could choose to see them, believe them, do whatever you want with them. But I'm showing you legitimate evidence and proof. The funny part is this proof has been there since April and May. It was there last year, was there in 2019, and everybody said no. I encourage you now, with the deadline coming up, with this team's future at the crossroads, to start saying yes. Yes, you need to sell. Yes, it's time to move on. Yes, I'm sick of this team. I mean, now they have a negative run differential, even. I will say this, though. It's a shame to see them where they are today. I'm not happy that they've fallen to this length at all. Remember, this was supposed to be a dynasty, not one World Series, then bust. They were supposed to win in 2017, maybe 2018, even 2019. They couldn't. And in the process, Theo Epstein, at the time, made moves to hurt them for the future. Why trade for Jose Quintana? Why make that move? Why pretend to be a contender all the way till now? You could have retooled on the fly, but now you're at a point where it really is all over. You've got expiring contracts, big money still on the books. This could have been done differently. This could have been done better, but it wasn't. That's the real shame in all this. And you Cubs fans are the ones suffering. You have a new TV network that you have to pay for to watch. A newly revamped Wrigleyville that isn't what it was when you grew up watching them. And a team that by next year will be unrecognizable. I feel bad for you. Really, I do. That's the shame in all this. That's why I get at some points it's really hard to face this reality. Because it was just yesterday that you were at a parade, celebrating a World Series, one of many, you thought. It didn't happen. And now we sit at a point where within 3 or 4 weeks, this whole team could be disbanded. That is a damning truth. And that's very hard to swallow. I'm not basking in the glow. I'm not happy that all this is happening. But I do hope at least you realize there still could be a bright future. Still possible. But all these moves have to be made. And by resisting, by saying this is wrong for the team, it's only going to be more mediocre. The time period between 2016 and another World Series is going to be even worse unless you make moves today to clean it up. So I encourage you, Cubs fans, to support a rebuild, or at least a retool. Trade your stars, and in a couple of years you'll be good. If you wait, if you continue to wait, if you somehow think they're going to turn it around, get rid of that pipe dream. It's not time. It's over. The sooner you accept that, the sooner this team will be good. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with David Sampson comes up next, so stay tuned.